Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Wagner. I am an early childhood mental health specialist with the Devereaux Center for Resilient Children, and I would love to welcome you to this short conversation about getting to the root of some of the behaviors we might find challenging from children. I'm sure you have heard me say or somebody else say behavior has meaning or behavior is communication. You probably also heard somebody say that feelings are at the root of behavior. That idea that a child is a tree and the leaves are what you see, behavior is what we see, but that there's roots underneath that behavior that are usually feelings, and that all behavior grows from the roots or grows from the feelings. And so as we're coming across some behaviors we might find challenging from children, it's important to ask ourselves, what's at the root? I got a phone call about a little boy, a 4-year-old boy in a preschool program. And the program called me and they said, Rachel, this little boy, he just got up in the middle of a circle and he walked over to this little girl and he just kicked her in the belly really hard. It looked like for no reason. He didn't even look mad. He just walked over and kicked her in the belly for no reason, which never works on me. I always believe there's a reason. And when I got to the program and met the boy and met the mom and met the teacher and the director, and we had a conversation, I asked, what's beneath the behavior? Because there's always something beneath the behavior. Is there an unmet need? Come to find out, this little boy's mommy was in an unsafe relationship. And he was worried about her. He was worried about her safety. And in fact, he was worried about her life. And he knew while he was sitting there in circle worrying about, was his mommy okay, that if he did something outrageous, what was the center going to do? They were going to call his mommy. And he was going to get to talk to her on the phone and hear that she was alive and doing okay. That's why he didn't look mad. He wasn't mad. He had a goal. He had a goal. The unmet need was to know his mommy was safe. He had a goal to figure out a way to find out, is my mommy safe and alive? And so once we figured out that the root of the challenging behavior we were seeing was rooted in this unmet need to know that mommy was safe, there were a lot of things we could do differently. And so we put other plans in place and we helped mom, but we also helped this little boy figure out how to ask to do check-ins with mom. And we set up a regular actual schedule of doing check-ins with mom to meet his unmet need. And guess what? Once we met the unmet need, there was no more kicking anyone in tummies, right? And so I hope you can see from this quick conversation that responding to the root by meeting the unmet need is a much healthier way to handle a challenging moment with a child rather than reacting to behavior. And of course, every child is different and every situation is unique. There is never a one size fits all. But I encourage you to move forward today and in the days to come. And when you see some behavior that you might find challenging, some leaves, to ask yourself, what's at the root? And is there an unmet need? And I hope that uncovering that will give you a different response that will help to reduce the challenging behavior. You've got a child who's needing to nap, but instead of napping, they keep crawling off of wherever they're supposed to be napping from and crawling over to where you are and tugging on your leg or flipping their mat over and looking at you while they're doing it. Have you ever had that experience where they just, they need to nap, but they keep sort of poking at you or egging you on? And of course, and many of us have been in this situation where we can react to that. We certainly can react and get back on your mat and it's time to nap and you need to sleep. We can react to the behavior, or we can respond and go, is the feeling here that this child is wanting or needing connection? And if this child is wanting or needing connection, there's nothing wrong with that. That is a basic human need, wanting and needing connection. And a child who wants and needs connection so badly that they're willing to engage in challenging behavior to get it really needs us to consider front loading positive connection, positive attention, so that they won't find negative ways to get it. And so I may respond by putting in a little bit of that extra 5 minutes to do that nap time, back rubbing, or extra story to give that connection so that that child is able to then rest and sleep because they've gotten the connection that they've needed at their root. And so I hope you can see how responding to the root and providing a child with some positive connection can help to reduce some of that challenging behavior that we see from children who are engaging in it because they want or need connection. Consider front loading. It will save us a lot of time and heartache in the long run. I got a call once about a little boy at a preschool program who was not speaking. He was totally verbal, had all the verbal skills in the world, talked openly and freely at home, but didn't talk at preschool. And we could react to that. We could react to that behavior. We could say he's shy and withdrawn, and we could try to push him to talk more and get engaged more. Or we could say, is he trying to change the level of stimulation? And when we really tried to respond to what was at the root, what we noticed was that this little guy was so overstimulated by the preschool classroom. It was so loud and so overwhelming. He sort of lost his words and he needed to reduce the level of stimulation, right? And so for this kiddo, what we ended up doing is we put a little pup tent, like just one of those that pops right open. We put it in this classroom. And when he was feeling overstimulated, he went in there, and do you know what happened? And if a friend or two went in there with him, he talked up a storm. We changed his level of stimulation by putting him in a safer, less stimulating environment, and he was able to show us the behavior that we were missing, that talking, that engaging behavior. And then one last example is from my own life. I have 4 kiddos, but a few of them, including my youngest, is extremely high energy. And when he was young and in school, I would get calls from his teachers about how he would blurt out in class and get out of his seat and get engagement from his peers by getting silly with his neighbors. And we could certainly react to that. It's not appropriate to act that way in school, of course, and we could react to the behavior we're seeing. Or we could respond to what was happening below the surface. And what I know about this kiddo is that he desperately needs stimuli. And that when he's trying to engage his neighbors, or he's blurting out things, or he's jumping out of his seat, he's trying to get stimuli. And so one of the things we did is we put a little stretchy exercise band around the front 2 legs of his chair, and he could bounce his legs on that exercise band. And that gave him the stimuli he needed. And it stopped him from blurting out and jumping out of his seat and talking to his neighbors. It gave him the stimuli he needed. And so I hope you can see from these examples that responding to the root by changing the level of stimuli, whether it's overstimulation or understimulation, but by responding to that need for a change in stimuli, we're going to get a way healthier, more optimal reaction or result than if we just react to the behavior that we're seeing. And as I always say, every child is different. Every situation is different. There is no one size fits all. But in the days and weeks to come, if you're seeing some behavior from children that you're finding challenging, ask yourself to slow down and not react to the behavior you're seeing, but ask yourself, what's at the root here? What's the feeling? And is this child trying to change their level of stimulation? And see what answers come forward as you investigate to try to crack the code of challenging behavior.